welcome to Rainbow Table. Welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome for the first time if you're just joining us. My name is Deb Pierce and I'm going to be your host. I do radio, television, advocacy, education, everything that's awesome and queer. And here you are as an ally or as an LGBTQI2S person, and you're joining us today. So thank you very much. I know there's lots of options on Friday afternoons for you to tune in. And if you're watching this live, fantastic. If you're watching it after the show, also wonderful. So thank you very much. Today's show is going to be about faith and spirituality. Last week was about sport and advocacy around sport and awareness. And I just wanted to say something really quickly. Last week, the beginning of our show started out with a picture of one of our guests with Martina Navratilova. And as a lesbian and as a tennis player, that was a huge moment for me. It was brought to my attention afterwards that Martina has been fairly outspoken against or about the trans community in and around sport. And I just wanted to say that it's these kinds of shows and these kinds of discussions that are super important, even within our community and outside of our community, to bring these issues to the forefront. And even people within the LGBTQI2S community can say things that are harmful and hurtful to our community. So we just wanted to let you know that we are committed to creating a space that's inclusive for the entire LGBTQI2S community. All right. So without further ado, we're going to do a little bit of this. Ready? Ready? Wait. Well, I guess it would be nice. I don't know, because you got to have faith. You got to have faith. Ironic, George Michael singing about faith. And today we're talking about faith and spirituality. So it can be a super polarizing topic in our community. A lot of people have not had the greatest experiences within their churches or spiritual places of gathering. So it's really important. Again, Rainbow Table does this kind of thing, and we talk about the easy topics and the hard topics and everything in between. If you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, it's Rainbow Table. Just go, if you put Rainbow Table into your search bar in Facebook, you will find it, and there it is. Thank you, Jonathan, working hard in the background to get that up, or Wes, I'm not sure who that was. We have a lot of guests today. We have John R. Silly Boy is going to be coming up. We have Mumtaz Khatun coming up. And we have, if you've been watching the news at all lately this week, we have the lovely and brave June Joplin joining us live as our third guest today. They were recently let go from their Baptist church for coming out as a trans woman. So we're going to be talking, and I saw her in the green room. She looks absolutely stunning. So we're going to talk to her, and if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to ask, I'll try to fit it in live during the conversation that we have. We do have some comments already. Hi, Dennis from St. Catharines. Hi, David. Hi, Larry, sitting in the backyard in Halifax. Happy Pride in Halifax. So thanks for everybody. Please join in on the conversation. We'd love to have you. And then, of course, how could we do this without talking to Brent Hawkes at the end, right? Obviously. And then we have a very special performance. It's a Bollywood performance, so that's going to close out our show today. Now, everyone's sitting in the waiting room and waiting to be spoken to. So I think, let me just check, make sure I haven't heard otherwise. So our first guest is here. And I want to just tell you that John R. is from, wait a minute, I'm getting a text message from one of my producers. Okay. So we're going to go to our second guest. That's how official we are, you guys. It's happening real time. It is 3:06 and it's happening. So we're going to go to our guest. You can stop typing, Wes, because I'm not going to look down again. Our guest is Mumtaz Khatun, and they are a non-binary queer Muslim and therapeutic counselor in private practice, and they coordinate Salam queer Muslim community in Vancouver. Let's bring on our first guest, Mumtaz. Welcome to Rainbow Table.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for pivoting really quickly. The beauty of live television is that it's live. So that's how organized we are by having you in the waiting room. Thank you very much for joining us today. How are you?
Well, you know, it's here cloudy here in the Best Coast. I call it the Best Coast. But
I love that.
we're getting ready for Pride because Pride is August 2nd. So
Okay.
we're going to go into our Pride Week coming up, and we have a lot of things going on here in Vancouver.
So if you call it the Best Coast, do you also have a nickname for Ontario? You can say it here. I've heard Ontarable for people in the West Coast. Is that true?
No, well, I'm a counselor. I'd rather not be negative.
I love that. I love that. We've got James kind of close to you from Victoria saying hi. James Gardner saying hello. Keep your chats coming. So thanks for joining us here on Rainbow Table today. I want to know from you first and foremost, Muslim.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
There's no Z there.
Mus. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Already. See, this is important to know. All right. So different faiths and spiritualities can be really polarizing to our LGBTQI2S community. So let's talk about the good work that you do and sort of the seat that you have being Muslim in and around that spiritual guidance and our community.
Yeah, I know some people say you can't be Muslim and queer, and I'm going, well, why not? And some people have this fear of God, but to see, like, being a Muslim, we're told that God is neither male nor female, so I refer to God as they, because God is non-binary. Allah is non-binary. So there you go. And Allah is kind and merciful. So why fear Allah? Embrace Allah. That's my faith, my spirituality. And our goal as a Muslim is to be one with the Creator. We come from the Creator, and we return to the Creator. And how can we be close to the Creator if we're not honest with ourselves as to who we are, and accept ourselves? If we can't accept ourselves, how can our Creator accept us?
So if someone were to come out in the Muslim community, how would that be received? And I'm kind of holding it against a benchmark or watermark about other structured situations. So how would that would just be welcomed and loved? You think, or do you know?
Well, there is no structure, right? And because faith is personal, so there are different variations, just like in Christianity. There are those who love us, and there are those who hate us. And we have many denominations, and we have a whole movement of Muslims who call ourselves progressive Muslims and welcoming Muslims. And so we have a welcoming mosque, which has been created here in Toronto and across Canada. It's called the Unity Mosque. So we have our welcome spaces. Actually, we're not that different from Christians or Jews or other peoples of faith. We have our problems.
And so, and doesn't everybody? And to err is human. Mm-hmm. So tell me why, if somebody sort of grew up a certain way, why would it be attractive potentially? Because it seems all-knowing and all-loving and all-welcoming. Can people sort of morph into a Muslim faith and a community?
Well, I grew up Muslim. I come from a Muslim family. So for me, it was important to blend who I was with my faith. And for a time, I had to go away because there was no reconciliation. To a point where I came to say, well, this is my family. This is where I belong. And I felt that sense of family. So to accept who I was, my sexuality, my gender identity, I had to kind of hide and be ashamed of who I was. And then when I started seeing other queer Muslims embrace their faith and embrace who they were, they were my mentors, my leaders, to say, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too. Right. So I'm kind of hoping that I can do that for others who are watching. Doesn't matter what faith they are from. If they're people of faith, if you want to be able to close to the Creator, you can do that and fill your spirit and become whole as a person and accept yourself for who you are and accept the Creator in your heart.
And I'm bringing it back a few minutes to when you said that the Creator is non-binary, is not. I want to explore that a little bit, because there are sort of misnomers within different religions, and there's a lot of reference to male. So can you explore that a little bit and educate us on that?
Well, the Quran does say that that the Creator is neither male nor female, is our mother and our father, and created us. So to me, that's non-binary, right?
Yeah.
And so why do we give the Creator a male gender when the Quran says that the Creator is without gender, without description, is beyond our understanding? So therefore, I know the Creator is non-binary, non-binding, and omnipresent. So I refer to the Creator as they. As we would in our language,
right?
Because in our language we use the formal they as a form of respect, and then so why not use the same in English, because it is non-binary, right?
I love it. I love this. I grew up going to St. Peter's Cathedral in Peterborough, and we would go every Sunday before I would go to figure skating lessons. And then eventually, when I stopped looking at the ceiling fan so long that it would start to look like it changed directions, and I started to listen to what they were saying, I was like, this is not even close to being aligned to anything that I've really grown up with under my roof, and anything that my parents really ever spoke to me, because it was, for me, how I received it. Again, faith is personal. You said it. I back that. But for me, some of the things that I would hear in Catholicism was not what was happening under my roof. So it was very interesting. And then my parents gave me a choice whether I wanted to go or not, and I chose not to. And then for a very long time, God stood for good orderly direction to me. Mm-hmm. Or in a program that I go to on Thursday nights, it stands for good old dyke. So it can be all very personal.
You asked me how people come to, if you're not Muslim, how do they come to the faith and be queer, trans, non-binary? Interestingly, my ex converted to Islam after we broke up. And I'm like, what? He says, well, it was your influence, And I said, is this way of getting me back? He says, no, you influenced me. And in my time of need, I reached out to Allah, and that worked for me. So whatever works for you, I know whatever draws you into the Creator, doesn't matter what name you call them. Quran says that Allah has over 120, 99 names, but as the Quran says that Allah sent 124,000 prophets to all of humanity, right? So Allah is known by different names, by different cultures, by different religions. Whatever name you refer to the Creator by is your name for the Creator. And how you know the Creator in your own way, it's your personal search, your own spirituality.
Well, I appreciate you. If before we wrap this up, is there anything that you wanted to sort of reach out and talk about today? Whether it's Pride, whether it's Muslim, whether it's your counseling work, I give you the floor to say anything you want to say.
Well, I mean, what's coming up is, Pride weekend is also Eid weekend. It's Eidul Hajj is coming up, and so we invite you, whether you're Muslim or not, to come and celebrate and pray with us. Online, Progressive Muslims and Unity Mosque is having a celebration for Eidul Hajj, and that's on August 1st. Of course, August 2nd here in Vancouver is the Pride online. And to celebrate here in Vancouver, we're having a Pride and Eid at Trout Lake. So you're welcome if you're in Vancouver at Trout Lake at 2 o'clock on Monday, August the 3rd. You're welcome to join us. If you want to reach me as a counselor, you can do that. My website is MTS Poppet Counseling. So my name is my other name is MTS Poppet, and Mumtaz is the feminine derivative or equal, I guess, of Imtiaz. And so and traditionally, we're named after ourselves and our father. So people ask me when I chose the name Mumtaz, so what's your last name or what's your family name? So I picked my mother's name, which is Khatun. So I am Mumtaz Khatun, honoring my.
I love that. I love that.
And Khatun actually means lady, right? And Mumtaz, of course, I picked Mumtaz, of course, because it is a derivative, so-called feminine derivative of Imtiaz, but also my favorite started in Bollywood as Mumtaz. And of course, the Taj Mahal is built after Mumtaz Mahal. So I am that Mumtaz, and I'm Mumtaz Khatun. And I'm also Imtiaz Puppet. So it's really a pleasure talking to you today.
It has been a real pleasure. And I hope that our viewers we do have someone, James, from Victoria, and we've got some people in Vancouver I know that are watching. So happy early Pride to you. And we do have David says, I think it's difficult to say in a faith that does not generally, there's a lot of double negatives here. Something about faith not accepting LGBTQ plus people. And I think we've kind of covered that today. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. Stay safe and happy Pride.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much. Fantastic. All right. So if you're just tuning in right now, we're talking about faith and spirituality today here on Rainbow Table. And if you're just tuning in, you missed me playing the ukulele, To a Little Faith by George Michael. And if you reach out enough times, I may end the show with A Little Faith by George Michael on said ukulele. Okay, so our first guest is our second guest, and they're here now, unless there's any private comments in here. Nope, they're here. Okay, so our next guest is John R. Sillyboy, and there's a lot to read about them. They come from the Millbrook Mi'kmaq community in Nova Scotia. Represent. Our good friend Jackie, are you here today? No? So I think they'll be watching. John works in social and cultural development, health and education policy and research, and community development for Atlantic Indigenous communities. Without further ado, John, welcome to Rainbow Table. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Hi there, Deb. How's everybody?
Oh, that looks beautiful. Where are you?
I'm in the actual teepee, the Pride teepee. That's at the Halifax Pride grounds right now.
Happy Pride to you.
Happy Pride to everybody, and you yourself.
Thank you very much. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
How many people did it take to make that?
Well, one elder helped us and directed us to put it together. We have a time lapse of it going up in about an hour. It's the first time ever that the teepee is being was raised here in Halifax Pride, so we're excited about that.
That is exciting.
It's a place for welcoming and sharing Indigenous knowledge around different aspects, and I thought this would be a great place to have the chat with you and everybody
I'll
else.
tell you, it really does create a beautiful backdrop to this conversation today. So I want to thank you for doing that. And your internet is great. So despite where you are, it's your hotspotting or whatever you're doing is working great. Yeah. Okay, so today we're talking about faith and spirituality. And so let's talk a bit about where you come from and what that means to you within your communities.
Right. Well, first of all, I'm here on unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, my people here, and we cover the whole Atlantic region by all means. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that we are, this is Mi'kmaq Indigenous knowledge that I'm looking at here, and the experience that I'm talking about are based on that perspective and knowledge. But a lot of it overlaps with a lot of different Indigenous experiences across Canada and what we call Turtle Island in North America, where our spirituality and faith has multi-dimensions looking at it. So, of course, we have the spiritual side that's based on Indigenous ways of being, our worldview, our sense of spirituality with Mother Nature, and everything else that we believe has to do with the interconnectedness with everything that's around us. That sense of spirituality comes from that. That's our original worldview. That's our sense of being. And it explains everything, and it guides us in our way of looking at life, our connection with ourselves, our connection with the Creator, our Creator is the all source of that sense of spirituality. Of course, we have to also recognize the fact that there is a sacred canopy, if you will, that had happened between the indigenous and the European during contact, and the dominant cultural aspects that we had acquired included a sense of faith and spirituality. So a lot of it in North America and around our region, for example, via the Jesuits and the Europeans that first came here, was a process of encatchment. For example, they were talking about converting us into Catholicism or Christians, and adopting the views of the new worldview. So a lot of it in a lot of the countries was not a easy transition. It wasn't a safe transition. It was a very violent transition for even a lot of the cultures. The Mi'kmaq here, however, we had a system by which we have a belief that we come from a source, and that source is our source of knowledge and power and creation and our beliefs, and they're all intertwined with everything we look at around us. That's not very different from what the New World structure and paradigm was saying, that Jesus Christ, and we have the Holy Trinity and everything else that comes with that. So during the time of the contact, we're talking about 610 when, for example, Grand Chief Membertou was baptized in 1610. And during that time, our leader and our spiritual guide was this Grand Chief, who had said and had to have really come to a conclusion that, we're looking at very similar things here. We're looking at very similar ways of understanding what faith is, our sense of spirituality with the whole of the universe and everything. Perhaps not, knuckle down to just one person like Jesus that came down to earth, but then we also have the Glooscap stories. We have all kinds of creation stories as well that have to do with how our worldview has evolved into who we are. So very similarly, that went back and forth. And a lot of it integrated into a understanding between the Mi'kmaq and the Holy See to say that we have now what we call the or the Grand Council, which overlooks our spirituality, that both balances the spiritual side of how we are as Indigenous people, but then also as part of the Catholic faith. So that had taken place. But also the other aspects of our spirituality, the Christian faith started to take over as the dominant faith. And the church and state really worked together to try to convince and convert our Mi'kmaq and Indigenous people across Turtle Island to, convert into those dominant worldviews that are European and European mainly. So what had happened is that it eroded, it impacted, and or eliminated our cultural beliefs and spiritual beliefs to a certain degree that we had to go underground with all of it. So, for example, a lot of people that had two-spirited notions of what identity as a two-spirit person would have been the first people to have been impacted, because often the two-spirited people were the cultural leaders, the spiritual guides, the knowledge holders, and they would have been targeted in all these communities and in the colonies. So they would have been different ways, either taken care of in however they did that, and or pushed out. And now when I did my research on Jesuit relations, for example, here with the Mi'kmaq, one of the things I discovered that the first thing that they did was to discredit those leaders.
Right.
And discredit their spiritual beliefs, discredit their spiritual practices and ceremonies, and started to impact those folks quite drastically. And then the rest, it started to grow, it flipped. So the Indigenous side that was dominant now went underground, and the Christianity or the Christian faith was the one that's dominant. That eventually affected policies and practices by government even. For example, the Indian Act in 1867 that mandated, for example, all Indigenous people now have to go to schools. It also matrimonial laws, or all the laws were all patriarchal. All these, not very binary notions about our understanding who we are were impacted as well. So now we were forced to believe how the European system had to believe in, let's say, a man and a woman, rather than two people of the same sex and genders. So all of that was very, it impacted us greatly. But then people started to look at, well, what can we do to understand a person like myself as a two-spirited person? How would I come to terms with my identity, my sexuality, and with that, my faith and spirituality of
and how do those
and so we had to unearth a lot of the truths that had happened, and a lot of those things that had happened in Indian residential schools, Indian day schools. All of those things had impacted us greatly. So for a person like myself, in the last 30, 40, and 50 years, with a lot of two-spirited people, trying to come back to resurgence, and especially try to rescue our notion of what spirituality is, and understand there are sources of spirituality that intertwine with our ancestral views, but also our Christian views that are now so that personality is what a lot of people are dealing with. And our elders are the ones that are telling us, okay, let's find out where this goes now.
And you're one of the you're leading that by talking about this and being on programs like this and shows like this, and the work that you do with McGill University is also really important work. So if anybody wants to find any more information about John R. Sillyboy, you are in Halifax right now. And these are the ways in which you can be followed or cyber followed and everything. I wish you a happy Pride. And can you just show us a little bit more again, the inside of that beautiful teepee? Because I am actually fast forwarding to see what that looks like. I'm thinking in my mind at night how beautiful that's going to be. That's so beautiful. I'm grateful that you chose to show us that. Oh, that's what it looks like, I guess. That's what it's probably going to be close to looking like. John, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate your patience by coming in and then being pivoting to being our second instead of our first guest today. Thank you very much, and take good care. Be safe.
And thank you very much for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you again. So today we're talking about faith and spirituality. And this week it's been, I don't know why my nose is so itchy. Does that mean someone's talking about me? She has made the headlines of news this week. Before I introduce her, her name is June Joplin. I did a lot of research on June from North Carolina, and started her first sermon at about 11 years old, and so has clearly had a calling within the Baptist Church and has followed that her entire life. When she decided in June and I've watched the entire sermon, when she decided in June to talk her sermon was about truth and authenticity and honoring yourself. And when she chose to do that for herself on a personal level, she came out as a trans woman. I watched it today. I cried. I shivered. I shaked. I wanted to put my arms around her, because her truth has not set her free in this way. It has actually led to her being let go from the church. So she's here to tell her story today. Without further ado, please, let's give a nice rainbow table welcome to June Joplin.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
Hi, new friend. Thank you so much for being on Rainbow Table today. You look beautiful.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed your playing your ukulele a minute ago. That was wonderful.
Oh, yeah? Because, it's right here.
My banjo is on the other side of the house, or I would go get it and we could jam.
Oh, you could have gone to get it in these last 31 minutes, girlfriend.
I did see
you were a banjoist, and we might have to start a little band.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I thank you for being here today. I also thank you for doing what you did, for both yourself as being freeing for yourself, but also for the community. So the way you speak, it is so first or second nature to you to speak and to speak about God and to speak beautifully. And the confidence that you exuded, because I had never seen your sermon before, that particular one, there's an ease about the way you speak so comfortably in and around God. And the way your build up, girlfriend, your build up for that reveal was like, I'm like, okay, it's going to happen. It's happening. Okay, there's more build up. And you just really set this beautiful foundation for, of course, authenticity and truth should absolutely be what guides you. And then I'm a transgender woman.
Yeah, that was something else, wasn't it? I worked on the sermon during that week, and I was talking to a few folks that week, and I finally, when the buildup, sometimes you start a train of thought, and you just have to follow it wherever it goes. And what I began to notice in developing that sermon about that particular story in Scripture is that it's relatable to anybody.
Right.
The fact that was a word of inspiration that helped me in my own journey towards coming out doesn't mean that that's the only thing that it's about. And so I preached using a text that is one of the parables of Jesus. Jesus was a well-known storyteller, and he didn't lecture people. He would just tell little stories about, a farmer went out planting seeds, or somebody found a very valuable pearl and then cashed in everything to buy it. So much more memorable and relatable than saying, today I'm going to lecture you about methods of, I don't know, whatever. Hearing those stories invites you to start to connect the dots, start to see yourself in that story, start to imagine what you would do if something like that happened to you. And so I think for anyone, transgender, cisgender, LGBTQ plus identified or not, we can recall times in our lives when we thought maybe there was a treasure that was just within our grasp, but maybe we thought, no, not today, and talked ourselves out of it. And I'm convinced, because I'm living the story, that God, I believe in a God that keeps bringing us back to that and leading us somehow to that treasure.
So June, when I initially heard this story, it was from my mom, who was 83 years old, living in Peterborough, and she's incensed by the fact that you were fired. And then your brain, whether you like it or not, goes on a bit of an assumption, an assumptions campaign. So I thought, okay, so why now did they fire her for being a trans woman? And then I realized it's entirely possible that you weren't, that you were pretty stealth about how you were feeling, and weren't presenting on that level outwardly. So it wasn't like they hired you in 2014 as a trans woman. This was news to them on that day.
This was news to them. Yeah. So I have been on the road to social transition for about a year now, and thanks to COVID and working from home and having very little in-person work to do with the church, I was able to socially transition at that time. And the sermon you're seeing, and I've had to point this out to a few folks, and it invites some really interesting I guess discussion about gender identity and how we perceive gender, but that's me presenting male in that sermon, and had been for the entire 6 years that I'd been at the church. So I think a lot of my friends and a lot of folks who know who I am now see that video and say, oh, that's June, and of course that's a woman, because that's kind of how I present and how people understand me to be. But
Right.
to a lot of folks that wasn't who they were seeing, it just so that's kind of an interesting, that has been a fascinating kind of sidebar to this whole story, who people are seeing when they see the sermon. I think some of the folks from my own congregation were seeing somebody they would have recognized and called by a different name that morning, and people who know me as June see that and say, oh, that's my friend June, and she's a pastor. So I was, there are so many societal forces that prevent trans people from becoming self-accepting, especially those of us who grew up 40 years ago, and even 20, 15, 30 years ago.
Sure.
And I was deeply repressed for a very long time, and would have answered you as recently as maybe 2 or 3 years ago if you'd have asked, are you cisgender or transgender? I'd say, well, I'm a cisgender man. Like I've had these kind of inclinations since I was a little kid, but I don't think that I'm transgender, in part because I just hadn't given myself the freedom and the space to explore those questions.
Right.
As it happens, Egali Canada is one of the organizations that helped inspire me to begin asking those questions, because the organization put together the Respect in Sport module that I had to go through as a hockey volunteer for some kids in my family, and it introduced me to a number of concepts that I really had no business not knowing in this day and age. But it made me start thinking, wait a minute, maybe these are questions or senses within me that I need to listen to and lean into and embrace.
Yay, Egali Canada!
Yeah,
for the win.
It was, well, that's one reason I was so happy to say yes when someone contacted me, because I wouldn't be here without Egali. So that's pretty cool.
That's listen, on behalf of Egali, we thank you for that, and we are right beside you and behind you every step of the way. And so, in researching this interview, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with June Joplin, recently fired pastor from the Baptist Church at Lauren Park in Mississauga after being there for 6 years. So, in looking at your draw to doing this, you were married, you've got children. I don't think it seemed to occur to you to be anything but a pastor within the church. And so the 6 years leading up to this, obviously full of love and everything, you did this sermon, and we will post it on our Facebook page,
all right,
on our Egali Facebook page. We'll post it all. So it seems to me that, and this is something that I'm willing to unlearn and learn again about the Baptist Church. It seems to me that when you made that choice to share this very personal information, did you think that, and the vote was very close, but did you think that you would, was it 53 to 48 or something?
52-48 percentage-wise. The totals were like 58-53.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you made the choice to share your personal truth, what did you think would be the outcome?
Well, there have been a few instances where trans people I know have come out to their congregations, who are in congregational leadership, serving in ministry, usually as pastor, but not always. And they have pretty much always gotten fired. So I just looked at the history and said, this is probably going to happen to me again, but maybe it won't. And the other thing I noticed is that every time this kind of thing happened, and it's actually happened a few times here in our Canadian context, the trans person in the church makes the news. And so recognizing that, well, it's going to be hard for me to keep my job. I'll try and I want to, but I might lose it. And this is going to make headlines. How can I sort of take a little bit of control of that narrative? And since we're doing church via Zoom because of COVID, I thought, it's the case that every sermon I ever preached at Lauren Park is posted on the web. So like, if you wanted to hear anything I'd ever preached in that 6 years, it's out there for the whole world. But there's a sense in which these sermons on YouTube are really out there. So I thought,
right,
maybe I have an opportunity to speak to people who really need to hear these important truths about who they are. And towards the end of the sermon, I did say to my LGBTQ plus siblings, especially those of faith, I believe in a God that sees you and created you and calls you by name, even if you don't know what that name is yet.
And I love that part of that. That really stuck out for me. So beautifully written by on your part, for sure.
It's such a it's very well documented the way religion can be a presence for harm in the lives of LGBTQ plus youth. If you're a straight kid, if you're a cisgender kid, and you're going to, say, a youth group or Sunday school, chances are it kind of helps your self-worth. It may like decrease your likelihood of experiencing suicidal ideation. But if you are transgender, if you're LGBTQ plus identified otherwise, it has the effect of increasing those ideations. And that research terrifies me. There's a line that one church leader likes to repeat, and it's bad theology kills. And I know there are lots of folks like me who literally didn't survive their conservative Christian upbringings. And I wanted to speak into those situations, not just to those people, but to maybe religious family members or other folks in their lives who are influential and people of faith, and hope to affect change that way.
I just think, I use the word brave because you did know that there was going to be a few of those. I love that you drink out of the same cup, whether you're talking a rainbow table or you're doing a sermon. I'm like, I saw that recently on a video.
This is my Yosef is the name of my university mascot, by the way. My mom got me this. Weird.
Did you go to school in North Carolina?
Yeah, I went to Appalachian State University, and
Okay.
Our nickname is the Mountaineers, and for some reason our mascot's name is Yosef. So
Okay.
that's what that is. So
Sometimes mascots you can question the names of
I was gonna
mascots.
get, I've been meaning to get like something a little prettier, but
We're going to send you some swag from a gal, okay?
All right,
So
that's
that
perfect.
every interview you do moving forward, you can just be like, a little bit of product placement.
Yeah,
I don't know if we have any, but Dollars to Donuts, we're going to be making some for you.
That. Thank you.
All right, so
you could send me a sticker or something, like you can make it. Yeah, whatever.
yeah, Joseph's going to go away and a gal's going to be front and center. And so,
Yeah,
okay.
that's right.
So you probably leaned on your village, and you refer to us as your siblings and sisters and brothers. And we are. I hope you're feeling the love today, because you're getting a lot of love. Roberta says, goosebumps. Thanks, June. He does know our names even when we don't. Full support and kudos to you, June, from Janet. Roberta wanted to also share, I'm a proud member at St. Luke's Anglican Church in Winnipeg, supported TJ Robinson on path to ordination, while also journeying on the road of transition. Stephanie said it was a beautifully structured and powerfully moving sermon. I've watched it half a dozen times and always end up in tears. June has a true calling. So in case in your quietest of moments, when you're not doing interviews and not being, your New York Times article, which I find quite expansive and impressive for you to be reaching down there, that's amazing. But in those moments where you're just feeling like it's a little bit quiet, just know that the people that are watching here and the people that are chiming in right now love you. And we really honor the choice that you made to do this. So you suspected that the fallout may lead to firing. It was a very close call. Has anybody from the church that you can share, and I don't know what you're doing, I don't know if you're pursuing anything moving forward, so I won't thwart your chances of that, but has anyone from the church that you can speak of reached out to you in sympathy or in love?
There have been a handful of folks who have announced that they won't be attending the church anymore, and I've heard from some of them, and they've stepped away kind of in solidarity. And just because I think, the percentages suggest that, there's almost two congregations there that, and I think each was surprised by the opinions of the other. And wherever they go from here, there's obviously a rift that needs to be healed in some way if possible. And some of those folks who voted to keep me, I think were just as shocked by the outcome as I was. And yeah, they've reached out to try to support me and kind of help me. And lots of folks are wishing me well. A lot of folks use the word whirlwind to describe what's going on this week. And I can remember, there's a denominational news outlet called Baptist News Global. Mark Wingfield is the executive director, and he's been an amazing trans ally down in Dallas, Texas. And he's written a couple of articles about me. And I can remember telling friends, like, they said, when you come out, this might get a little attention. And I said, well, Baptist News Global, Mark will write an article about me, but that's probably about it. And I said, it's not like the New York Times is going to call or anything. And Yeah, isn't that crazy? Crazy?
It's crazy, and it's amazing. And sorry, go on. You were still speaking.
Well,
Yes.
I suspect that when the dust settles, well, the fact of the matter is, I had a pretty good job. I had a really good job that I loved a lot, and a community that I loved a lot, and now it's gone. And my long-term employment prospects as a trans woman pastor are not good. And so I'm, even though it's great to experience the expressions of love and care, and like probably thousands of people this week have either clicked like or sent a comment or said, I get these great messages on social media, and I want to respond to everyone. It's just going to take forever. And I know that the story is inspiring people. And I think a couple months from now, it's going to hit me that, like, it's going to be really, really hard for me to make a living moving forward, compared to where I was a couple of months ago. And so I'm trying to prepare myself for that and respond to that properly, and correctly, I guess. And but it's a whirlwind. Sometimes I'm a little happy or eager to at least step into the next place and know that from day one I get to be June, and nobody's going to accidentally call me my old name or the wrong pronouns, because they won't know that stuff, and they won't have any reason to. But so that's, in some sense, it's exciting to have that freedom. But freedom can also be kind of scary when you had a pretty good, stable life before.
Well, authenticity, integrity, and honesty doesn't, at the end of the day, pay the rent and the bills and the mortgage. But I do believe that you're living up to your name by doing this in the middle of June, right? So no one's going to forget that. But honestly, I do believe that when you come out of those shadows, personally and professionally in this case, I do believe that only good things can happen. I look forward to following your journey. I know that you've empowered a lot of people to live their best lives and their true selves, and I can't thank you enough for being. I keep using the word brave, because really the domino effect of what you did does affect you personally and, of course, professionally. I hate for you and for everybody that making that decision to do that has left you in a position where you're questioning your professional future. But I do believe that you left and the net appeared, and anything we can do as a community to sort of help you and guide you and give you strength. We're here for you. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I need to start some sort of social media platform to continue the fight for you. Lisa Wilson says, it's so good to hear about something other than COVID, sending positive vibes from an amazing transition in all areas of your life, June. I don't think you'll have a problem in finding new opportunities. Only good things to come. David's repeating, puppeting, my integrity and truth don't pay the bills, but it certainly does. You know what? I do believe good things will follow you, and I think that they have to. They have to by doing this. Is there anything before we wrap this up? Because I do want to continue a friendship and a discussion with you. Is there anything you want to share to the Rainbow Table audience today?
Yeah, well, so I'm not done preaching. I'm not done sharing, sermons and things like I do on I was doing before on Sunday mornings. I'm doing guest spots with pastors that need a Sunday off this Sunday, and because of social distancing and Zoom, we're doing it kind of like this. And so this Sunday, I'm going to be preaching for the congregation of the St. Charles Avenue Baptist Church in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Nice.
We're a dear friend. It's very progressive, very welcome and affirming congregation led by my dear friend, Reverend Elizabeth Lott. And I'm going to put all that stuff on my YouTube channel, which I'll be able to live stream, and folks will be able to tune in and hear what I have to say that way. And, so if you're looking, if you are a person of faith or just somebody who's interested in maybe what I have to share and want to tune in, that's a good way to do it, because we don't have to be in the same in the same building these days, so we can just connect
That's right.
virtually.
And so your Twitter is JR Joplin, and then your YouTube channel is?
It's just called Junia's channel right now. I think you could search for it, and yeah, it's there. I'll tweet it. I'll do that. So it's
Okay.
there. All right.
And just know that for anybody watching EGAL's website, EGAL's Facebook page, the Rainbow Table Facebook page, we will be giving all of that information so that we can garner even more support for you. So thank you very much. I don't know how to end this because I don't know how it ends. I'm tempted to say if they took a vote again and it went the other way, would you go back? But I don't know what that looks like for you right now.
I don't either.
I know.
And I'm trying to, I'm trying to look ahead. That's what I'm trying to focus on. And I think there are a lot of folks in and outside of the congregation that are disappointed with the outcome, but it happened the way it happened, and now we've got to make something out of it. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And there's my somebody commented, I think, with my channel.
Yeah,
there.
they put a link up. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, Stephanie's a big fan of mine, and she's a dear friend. So
yes, okay,
yeah.
Yay, Stephanie. Thank you very much. Keep chiming in. Join the Rainbow Table group, and then we'll continue the conversation. Listen, all the support and love in the world for you. If I could physically reach through and just give you a big warm embrace, I'm not sure what I'd let go. So thank you very much, June, today.
Thank you. Take care. Thank
you. You too. Be safe. Oh my goodness gracious. How do you even, wow, what a, I'm grateful that we got June on the Rainbow Table episode the week that all of this hit the newspapers. So thank you very much for joining Rainbow Table. And these are the types of things that we like to bring to you every single week. And this week being about faith and spirituality, it was a no-brainer, no, never mind. So it pains me to see that she's not sure where her future lies as far as that is concerned. So let's turn this this unfortunate voting situation into something positive for June and all of our other brothers and sisters in the faith community. All right, so without further ado, listen, I have interviewed this man. I was pregnant in his church. We've done different events together. Of course, we have to have Reverend Brent Hawkes on for a faith and spirituality show. I'll just, where do I start? Was the forefront of the ministry for the LGBTQ community for over 40 years. On January 14th, 2001, he officiated at the first legal same-sex marriage. Oh, you know what? It's too much to even talk about. Let's just bring Reverend Brent Hawkes on, okay? Let's just talk to Brent and see what's doing. Hello, my friend.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being in the waiting room for 54 minutes. We appreciate you. And what do you think about, did you watch June's interview?
Yeah, that was really, really amazing. Great interview. And, it's very moving to see history being made. And, while June may have lost the vote, she won the hearts. And, she's just an amazing human being. She just oozes spirituality and strength and integrity. And I know there will be lots of metropolitan community churches that would love to talk to her about a job as they hire pastors. And in metropolitan community churches, we're much more open around these issues. And but it was really amazing. Good job.
She's a beautiful speaker. And just personally, before we get into to your journey and talking about faith and spirituality, there wasn't a Brent Hawkes and there wasn't a June Joplin when I was growing up listening to the voices in St. Peter's Cathedral in Peterborough. There just wasn't that, or at least I wasn't hearing that from a very young age on, and then identifying as a queer person. Just there wasn't that for me, and so I didn't really turn my back, and I turned it pretty hard on faith and spirituality. I've come back through to have my own God of my understanding at this point. But, Brent, there's, you lead with love always. I know that as a friend and as you being a reverend. But tell me what it is within your your experience in the past and what you've done to help to change hearts and minds in and around the LGBTQI2S community, because people really do fall back on that book, the Bible, to use words created against us, whether they're there or not. They tend to pick and choose the things that self-serve them. That doesn't come from love. So tell me anything you want to tell me. Listen, you're a great speaker. I don't even know what question to ask you. Just talk to me.
Well, first of all, I think it's very understandable why many LGBTQ2IS people have given up on faith. Certainly understandable. Organized religion has done a lot of damage to women, to the LGBTQ2S communities. But yet there are many of us who aren't prepared to give up our faith because of the sins of the church. And so, we want to reclaim faith. And so I think it's very, very important for people who have that tug to be part of a faith community and to grow in their faith and to be challenged in their faith, to reach out and find a safe place. There are lots of safe places. There are Baptist churches across Canada who've left the Baptist Convention so that they could welcome gay, lesbian people into their congregations, right? And so, every religion in the world has its progressive wing and its conservative fundamentalist wing, where there are safe places and where there are unsafe places. I often say that religion is not the problem. Spirituality is a belief that there is something more, and religion is practicing that together in community. The problem isn't religion. The problem is religious-based discrimination, religious-based transphobia, religious-based homophobia, which is evident all over the world. It's the main opposition all over the world to full inclusion for gay and lesbian people and transgender people. And so, there's much that the Christian church in particular, among other faiths, has to confess. And in terms of how the Christian church has supported discrimination against women, how the Christian church has supported apartheid, and was one of the main supporters of apartheid in South Africa and the southern US. However, there are also many people of faith who are leading the way towards freedom and inclusion, are paying the price for that. So, we're not going to give up the church to the right wing. And we're going to create our own places if we have to, or we're going to transform places. And it's people like June that are leading the way in that. And I'm just, so proud, Deb, to have watched that and to hear the conversation that you had with June. And it's amazing to, because when I, 40 some years ago, there weren't many of us, and it was tough in the early days because, the Christian community wouldn't accept me for being gay and the gay community wouldn't accept me for being Christian. And
so did you, when you got your job, because I June was there for 6 years specifically in Lauren Park. So when you decided or you followed the path of God, were you out and proud at the same time as that profession started for you?
Deb, I've been really fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. I knew that I was gay from as far back as I can remember. When I was dreaming about Tarzan, I was really dreaming about Tarzan. We'd be in the treehouse, watching the sunset go down and swinging on the vines together, and there was no Jane around. It was just me and Tarzan.
Yeah.
And so, I've known that I was gay back as far back as I can remember. And I was raised as a strict fundamentalist Baptist and was called to ministry in junior high school. But ultimately, I knew that I just couldn't be a Baptist minister and be gay. I just knew I couldn't buy the party line. I couldn't keep quiet. And so I went to Mount Allison University to become a high school teacher instead of going to Acadia and becoming a Baptist minister. And it was difficult because I felt like I was abandoning God, that I was giving up on my best friend. And so I went through my wilderness period of giving up on church at university and for the first few years following that. And then a friend of mine took me to an adult bookstore in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And there was a little shelf around the corner of of gay stuff, I should be honest. It wasn't much lesbian stuff, it was gay stuff. And I bought one copy of everything, every book, every magazine I could buy. And I remember sitting in my 1972 Ford Pinto car, looking through the pictures of The Advocate, which is the national gay magazine in the US, looking through the pictures. And all of a sudden I saw an ad with a cross. And I still get emotional. And it was an ad for Metropolitan Community Churches. And I knew it was home. I knew it was where I could find community. I knew it was where I could fulfill my calling. So I wrote to LA, the head office, got a letter back from Troy Perry, still have it. He told me about the church in Toronto. I contacted the pastor, came and met with him. And Bob Wolf, the pastor at the time, said to me, Brent, you need to move to Toronto and you need to find your people. And so I left the Maritimes and came to Toronto in 76 and became the pastor of the church in 77.
So let's talk about the MCC then. Let's talk about the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto, because there are people that don't know, I don't know who they are, but they might be watching now or in the future. Let's talk about the church and why it's, I mean, physically it's a beautiful space in Toronto, but let's talk about what that means for our community, all the love that's shared under that roof.
Very briefly, Metropolitan Community Churches were founded in 1968 in Los Angeles by the Reverend Troy Perry. He started one church and one congregation, but very quickly people visited, traveled, wanted it in their community, and it grew and grew and grew. And now there are about 100, I think, 150 Metropolitan Community Churches in about 30 countries around the world, often known as the gay church, but we always correct that we're a Christian church, welcoming to everyone. But it's a special ministry, not an exclusive ministry, but a special ministry to the LGBTQ2S communities. And so the majority.
You don't have to show your gay card to gain entrance. That's.
Nope.
Okay, just checking.
There's no passport required.
Okay, just checking.
And so, the MCC congregations throughout the world are in the forefront of welcoming the LGBTQ2S community, but also in the forefront of fighting for human rights. And so it's a combination of spirituality, spirituality and the struggle for human rights that go together. And so very early on in the journey in Toronto, I've been beaten up by the police at demonstrations. I've gone on hunger strikes. I've chained myself to the railing of the legislature when they didn't pass the human rights amendments that we wanted. And so it's been that combination of being a spiritual leader, but also being involved in the human rights struggle. And, Deb, I'm old enough that I can look back and know the worst of times.
Yeah.
And how awful it was in those early days. And I can see the changes. And I absolutely know we have a long way to go in Canada. We have a long way to go around the world. There's no question. But I can also see how far we've come. And, when I walk on Church Street and hold my partner's hand, my husband and I have been together for 39 years, tribute to my patience. When we walk out and hold hands and do so in the community, years ago when Prime Minister Trudeau and Premier Wynne and Mayor Tory were all sitting in the front row of our Pride Day service, worshiping with us. I mean, there have been amazing, amazing moments down there.
I would always inevitably be incredibly hungover, but I would hang off my balcony in Vaseline Tower for 26 years and watch the Sunday morning service. It brought me closer, but I think it was a little early for me over Pride weekend.
So I would encourage your listeners, viewers, wherever they are, to try and find a Metropolitan Community Church or an Affirming United Church or a liberal Jewish synagogue, to find the Unity Mosque. There are places where people can reclaim their spirituality in a safe way, but there are also some really dangerous places.
Okay, all right. My son, I told him that the show was going to be over at 4:00, and he keeps coming out. Jack, you can't come out during a live show. I know you want to be part of this. Okay. All right. He's just going to the loo. Brent, thank you very much for your time today. I'm sending you love and strength, and let's all think about June and try to make sure that, that there's some security underneath that pillow that she lays her head on every night, because it's a really interesting time, and I don't have a single doubt in my heart that she will land on her feet. But let's just all continue to make sure that the good work that you've done for people that have made these choices, that you continue to stay in this fight for her too.
And Deb, if I could just give a plug for my new work, which is Rainbow Faith and Freedom. Our
yes.
RainbowFaithandFreedom.org. And it's an organization that's working, will be doing work in Canada and around the world to confront religious-based discrimination. religious-based homophobia and religious-based transphobia around the world. It's very exciting. There's a whole group of us doing work together, and it's pretty amazing. And a couple of times a week, I put out a little video of spiritual messages, and I have a YouTube channel apparently where they're all being posted by somebody.
Yeah, we will put all of that up. So rainbowfaithandfreedom.org is where we can get that information. And let me know, Brent, if there's any way I can get a little more involved in that forum with you guys. So thank you very much. Yeah, check that off. Thank you very much, Reverend Brent Hawkes. Always nice to see your beautiful face. I love you. And be safe out there. Continue to lead the way you do. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, awesome. So if you're just joining us, right now we're talking about faith and spirituality here on Rainbow Table. Those, I've got so many papers all over my desk here. So we had some great guests on today. We have some performances. I want to let you know that, no, you know what, we're going to get to the performance and then I'm going to come back and talk to you about next week's show. So where is all my paperwork? Our performer is Herod Balbasi, and they are, interestingly enough, they're an attorney currently residing in New York, and was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, is of South Asian heritage, and is a lifelong Bollywood fan. Now, their drag name is Tara Wrist. And here is a performance for you to enjoy. As soon as this performance is over, I'll come back and talk to you and we'll wrap up the show. Enjoy this.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching Rainbow Table, where we're talking about faith and spirituality. I am thrilled to be joining you today. My name is Harith Balbasi. I am an attorney living in New York, and I've been performing as a Bollywood drag queen for a few years now under the name Tara Wrist. And the performance we're about to show you today, I did with a good friend of mine and fellow South Asian drag queen, very talented, Mango Lassi. It's been beautifully edited by another very talented friend, Wasim Sheikh. So with that, I hope you enjoy our show. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it. Lots of love to you all and lots of love to Rainbow Table. Thank you.
chumma chumma.
All right, thank you very much. That was our dessert portion for today. That was Tara Rist. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining Rainbow Table today. We talked about faith and spirituality. I'm getting some great messaging here. This can be an incredibly polarizing topic for the LGBTQI2S community. So to talk about different faiths, different religions, different belief systems today, I think is really important. David made a good point that he loved the show, but it really scratches the surface, and I think that's kind of our job here with the gal and with Rainbow Table. So thank you very much. David says great performance, and I'm really glad that you joined us today. I think it was a really, really important episode. We want to tell you something that's coming up, and if you haven't joined our Facebook group, we really want you to. Rainbow Table. You can go on to that wall anytime our videos are there, but right now I want to talk to you about an event that's happening. Real in the Closet is an award-winning feature documentary that reveals home movies made by queer people dating back to the 1930s. Okay, one of our previous guests, Jackie Cahagan, is part of this, and there's going to be a screening and it's going to be followed by a Q&A afterwards. So go to our Rainbow Table Facebook page for when that's airing, because my eyes can't see what that date is. It's early August 1st or 2nd. All right, and next week we're going to take the week off. We're going to take the Friday off because it's the long weekend. You guys may or may not be heading out, and we do appreciate your commitment to being here every Friday at 3. But next week we're going to be not airing an original episode. I'm gunning to air the sexual health and sex episode, of which was just shy of 6,000 views. So that's, that tells me a little bit where your head is at, mine too. So we have a few more episodes to go after that, and a very exciting 10th episode. Am I allowed to say what it's about? I am allowed to say, I think. Our last episode is going to be a very special episode where we have a game show with prizes for you in our audience. All right, our show has now been going for 1 hour and 14 minutes. Let's wrap this up. Okay, thank you very much for joining us here at Rainbow Table. Thank you to all of our special guests talking about faith and spirituality today. Huge thank you to June Joplin. You are being held in our hearts and in our minds right now, and I'm sending you all the strength and love that I can muster. Thank you very much. And don't forget, everybody, there's always a seat for you at our Rainbow Table.